Woman Transported by a UFO in Argentina by Charles Lear. Just weeks ago, there was an intriguing incident reported in Argentina involving a woman who went missing and was found a day later 65 kilometers from where she was seen last. She had no memory of how she got there, and local residents and Argentinian officials were mystified. The case aroused the interest of a local UFO researcher who noted a similarity to an earlier alien abduction case in the area. The story first appeared on November 17th in the Pampas newspaper La Arena, in an article headlined, Buscan a mujer que desapareció en Jacinto Arrayos, looking for a woman that disappeared in Jacinto Arrayos, reports that police and volunteer firefighters were involved in an extensive search the night before for a woman in her 50s who had been reported missing by her husband. A relative of the woman told La Arena that several calls were made from the missing woman's mobile phone to her relatives and children, but only the sound of wind was heard when they answered. A follow-up article appears in the November 19th edition of La Arena, headlined, El Misterio de la Mujer de Arrayos y el Caso Platner, The Mystery of the Woman of Arrayos and the Platner Case. After the first sentence reports that the woman had been found and was resting, the second sentence announces that the renowned Pampas ufologist Oscar Quique Mario would be investigating the case and that he'd already interviewed relatives of the woman. The woman was found in Catrache, a town in La Pampa province, Argentina, about 65 kilometers from the town of Jacinto Arrayos. She was found by a Catrache police patrol and taken to a hospital. She was unable to speak and communicated by writing. When she regained her speech, she was able to tell what happened to her. According to her, she heard a noise. She went outside where she saw a bright light, and then she found herself in a new location. As described by Mario, she said that she woke up sitting on the road, that she had her cell phone in her hand, looks for a signal, and sends a photo of the place where she was because she knew the area of Meridiano Quinto de Catrache. That allowed them to find her. According to Mario, the woman's shoes and clothes showed no signs that she'd walked so many kilometers. She was obese, and given her age, it was odd that she showed no signs of fatigue. As for her possibly having been transported by a conventional vehicle, police found no tracks in the area. Mario noted that she had a laceration on her temple and a headache. According to the article, Mario called the area hot. He is quoted as saying, "Since 1980 I've been working there because at that time we found some very strange traces. There were mutilations, UFOs, and beings with red eyes." He added that the woman's neighbors observed triangular objects flying over. Mario compared this case to a 1983 abduction in the area reported by Julio Platner. Mario pointed out that the difference between them was that Platner was able to consciously recall what happened to him. Platner's case was investigated by the organization Investigación Vida Extraterrestre, which translates in English to Alien Life Investigation. His story starts with him leaving the ranch of Antonio Fisher at 7:30 p.m. on August 9th after a day's work. He got out of his pickup truck to open the gate, and he was hit by a blinding light. He then found himself in a spherical room and sitting in what reminded him of a dentist chair that seemed to be floating. The walls were not smooth, seemed to be covered with a beige fabric, and there were opaque glass cases of a lighter beige color up against them. The room was lit with white light, but Platner couldn't see any source. There were 4 creatures around him, a male and female in front of him, and a male on either side of him. He wasn't sure if they were wearing uniforms, or if it was their skin he was looking at, but they were the same color as the walls. He could, however, clearly make out that they were wearing boots. He described them as being about 1.67 meters tall, 5.47 feet, and that they had 5-fingered hands. He determined the height based on the height of a friend of his. He was struck by their protruding eyes, which he described as being large, opaque, and black. He said the female had features like those of a human female, and that she was more slender than the males. The female came up to him as if gliding, and put her right hand on his left hand. He could see there was contact, but had no sensation of being touched. The male on the right placed his hand on Platner's right shoulder, and the male on the left produced a tube. Platner didn't know if the creature had been holding the tube the whole time, or had gotten it from one of the cases. Part of the tube was rigid, and this was placed on Platner's left wrist, while the flexible part was used to draw blood from the crook of his arm. He could see the blood flowing through the tube. Again, he felt no sensation of contact by the hand on his shoulder, the part of the tube on his wrist, and the part taking blood. He tried to touch the creature on his right, and then to stand up. Both times he was blocked by an invisible force. He was then told to stand up, and was able to do so. He went to walk and suddenly found himself in his truck. He turned on the headlights and recognized that he was in an area 19 kilometers away from the gate. Concerned that he'd left the gate open, he felt obligated to drive back and close it. Before leaving, however, he noted that there was a scab on the crook of his arm. As he drove off, he wondered whether he'd had some sort of dream, hallucination, or if what he'd seemed to have experienced actually happened. When he got to the gate, he saw that he had indeed left it open, and he closed it. The next day, Plattner returned to the gate and noted that his distinctive tire marks, he had one bald tire, abruptly ended 1.5 meters from the gate. This was confirmed for investigators by Fisher. In addition, Plattner's arm was examined by Dr. Adolfo Pizarro, and he found holes in the arm's crook that were smaller than those produced by needles. He believed that blood had indeed been drawn. Whether the woman from Jacinto Arrayos will be able to recall what happened to her during the period between her memory of seeing the light outside her house and finding herself in Getrache, time will tell. If she does, will she tell?